Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Suzanne Hume, and I am the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. And tonight, our panel is about hope. You can see these amazing youth ward and interns with us tonight, and I'm so excited for you to meet them. There's so much to be hopeful for. And when you look at their faces and think about all the important things they're doing, I know that you'll feel hope as well. So without further ado, I will introduce Leanna.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Leanna. I'm with Team One, which is Climate Action, Sustainability, Renewable Energy. Tonight, we'll hear from our interns, our youth board, and also a presentation by Hannah Reynolds of Princeton. So at Clean for Kids, we have 6 teams, and social, racial, climate, and environmental justice are a part of all we do. If you're a student watching this, you can earn community service by taking notes, creating infographics, art, music, video clips, poetry about what you've learned, and so much more. More information is at cleanforkids.org. If you go to our contest page at our website, you'll see a variety of contests like art, music, writing, poetry, dance, STEM projects, infographics, presentations, and anything you can find that you'd like. We have had many K-12 contests and challenges for everyone to take part in. And if you like to write poetry, we have a contest for you. You can write poems about our air, water, land, health, animals, and our forests. Here's Catherine to tell you about Team 2 and the Protect What You Love project / contest that anyone can enter on social media or through our website.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Catherine with Team 2. We protect public lands, forest, wildlife, and plant trees and gardens. We have a contest. It's called Protect What You Love. This is a contest where you take a picture or draw or write about your favorite animal or place and why we should protect it. Your art, infographics, video clips, stories, essays, and projects all help bring awareness to why we need to protect nature, clean water, clean air, oceans, rivers, streams, and forests. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Judith and I will talk about the These Are the Hands contest, open to everyone of all ages. So we hope you will join us in making a drawing or decorating a hand to recognize, honor, and to lift up people who are working for change and to make a better life for others. Everyone is encouraged to participate and honor someone making a positive difference in your school, community, city, state, or in our world. You can draw and decorate a picture of a hand and add symbols, words, and pictures to honor their work. Judith, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about the hands you have drawn?
Yes, thank you, Leanna. Hi, I am Judith, an artist on Team 3, where we focus on clean air because kids breathe here. Clean air and water and environmental justice are so important to us. People must be equally protected and have a voice. I drew a hand for Earth Justice, a group of environmental lawyers working for environmental justice. They are in court protecting our foundational laws like the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, NEPA, and so many other laws that protect our air, water, and the right for people to make comments at meetings to try to stop these dangerous power plants and factories from moving into their neighborhoods, cities, or counties.
Thank you, Judith. Earth Justice does amazing work and really important work as well. They're joined by many states suing to protect our air and water. For example, more than 20 states and counting are suing the Trump administration over these 100 rollbacks. Speaking of rollbacks, Judith, can you please tell us about the hand you drew for California Attorney General Xavier Becerra?
Yes, I drew a hand for California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, who is suing the Trump administration to protect our air and water from pollution caused by the Trump administration rollbacks. So the California Attorney General and several states and organizations are suing the Trump administration. We need a cleanearthforkids.org because kids breathe here. Sorry. Please feel confident in California Attorney General Xavier Becerra and other attorney generals who are fighting in court and winning again and again to protect your air and water. We are not going to keep letting people know about these we are going to keep letting people know about these rollbacks and cuts of protection by the Trump administration. We will put a link in the chat for you to thank him. We are writing thank you letters and making a thank you video to go along with our These Are the Hands book that we are writing, where we publish these hands for the world to see our gratitude. We are going to ask others to help us review a few things Attorney General Xavier Becerra has done for us.
Thank you, Judith. So to start talking about what our Attorney General Becerra has done for us, we're going to talk about energy efficiency first. So General Xavier Becerra recently delivered a notice of an intent to sue the Department of Energy over its failure to review and amend energy efficiency standards for 25 categories of consumer and commercial or industrial products. We've mentioned this rollback in previous panel discussions in regards to efficiency standards and what that kind of means. The good illustration of it are like light bulbs. When you switch those energy efficiency light bulbs, they have new standards created all the time. And unfortunately, those standards have been halted due to an environmental rollback. He argues that the Department of Energy's failure to timely review and update these efficiency standards violates the Energy Policy and Conservation Act. And it also frustrates Congress's energy conservation goals and harms public, state, and local government interests, because this longstanding energy efficiency program has resulted in substantial economic and environmental benefits, with more than $2 trillion in projected savings and 2.6 billion tons of avoided carbon dioxide emissions. So not only is the failure to keep up with these standards dangerous economically, but it's also environmentally, as 2.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions were were avoided due to these standards. So it's really important work that he's taking the initiative to sue the Department of Energy over this, and we are extremely proud for him for fighting for our climate rights and environmental rights. And with that, I'd like to introduce Anna.
Thank you. So next is going to be civil rights and protection for students. So in August of 2020, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra entered into separate settlements with the Barstow, Oroville City Elementary, Oroville Union High School District to address discriminatory treatment of students based on race and disability. The settlements come after California Department of Justice investigations uncovered systemic over-reliance on punitive exclusionary discipline against Black students and students with disabilities. As a result of these findings, the districts have agreed to take significant corrective action to ensure equitable treatment of students in a safe environment conducive to learning. And next is John Williams.
Yeah, so Xavier Becerra has also announced a multi-million-dollar settlement on behalf of Californians disadvantaged by over-the-counter medicines that failed to meet quality standards. He's also fought wire fraud scams, predatory student loan lending, compromised credit card information, and more. He has secured millions of dollars in debt relief for students who attend predatory for-profit colleges and continues to fight retirement insecurity for seniors.
Further, California Attorney General Becerra is working to protect clean water in a couple of ways. And the first of those is the oversight and enforcement of something called Prop 65, which is also known as the Safe Drinking Water and Toxic Enforcement Act. And this was an act that was made in 1986 that helps California keep up to date on all chemicals that can cause cancer and other health effects, and subsequently keep those chemicals regulated so that they stay out of our water supply. We know how important it is to keep chemicals out of water, especially cancer-causing chemicals. Also, General Becerra has helped to clean up the Los Angeles River, which is a highly polluted waterway. You can imagine, because, I mean, it goes through this huge city. You can see a picture of it there. It's kind of an unnatural waterway. It goes through all these all these factories and stuff. So when we're working to protect people from chemicals, it's a really good thing for them to do to help clean up this river. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about clean air. So today, as Attorney General for California, Xavier has led a coalition of states to stop the administration's effort to ease restrictions on methane emissions. He has sued the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, for failing to provide documents he requested on whether EPA Secretary Scott Pruitt has a conflict of interest in making environmental decisions. He has challenged the EPA's illegal delay of important air quality standards, and so much more. As a member of Congress, Xavier opposed legislation that would have turned a blind eye to greenhouse gas emissions, worked to clean the Los Angeles River and preserve green space in Los Angeles neighborhoods, and supported clean energy initiatives.
So we have protecting public health and our lungs. So California Attorney General Becerra stopping Trump rollbacks harming public health. Becerra sued to stop rules such as once in, always in, which allows polluters to stop monitoring and reducing the toxic pollution after they one time reduce the amounts. This is rollback 7 on Trump's 99 rollbacks that cut protection for our air. Also harming our air, the 2-for-1 rule, which says that the EPA must cut 2 laws on or regulations that protect our health must if they make a new one. And so Trump's rollbacks and cuts in regulations are incredibly harmful to health. California Attorney General Becerra and other state attorney generals will keep fighting for our health and our rights no matter who is president.
So next is talking about safe food and stopping toxic chemicals and pesticides. So Attorney General Becerra has overseen the installation of 2 very critical environmental laws. One of these, which Jonah mentioned earlier, is the Safe Drinking Water and Toxic Enforcement Act, which deals with the use of toxic chemicals. This protects not only the community that could be exposed to these chemicals, but also the workers that have to deal with them. He's also consistently advocated for workers' rights, especially those in vulnerable communities and dealing with toxic materials.
CA Attorney General Becerra is working on the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, and he's also working on the Drinking Water and Toxic Enforcement Act of 1986, which is Proposition 65. Attorney General Becerra will hold the line against President Trump's efforts to roll back environmental protections and to impede California's right to adopt and enforce its own protective laws.
Thank you everyone for sharing what Xavier Becerra has done. There's so much hope. People care and are working hard for change. I will put in the chat an action you can take to protect clean air. Here's a petition. So please tell Congress to reverse the EPA's toxic mercury rollbacks. The EPA rolled back mercury and air toxic standards, or MATS, to let coal power plants put more toxic mercury, a neurotoxin or a poison, into our air and water. Since 2014, MATS is estimated to have stopped almost 2 million tons of pollution. MATS has saved over 11,000 lives and prevented 130,000 asthma attacks each year. We must work to stop coal and fossil fuels that are poisoning our air and water. We'll put more information in the chat. So later we will hear from our special guest, Hannah Reynolds from Princeton University, who is helping Princeton divest. We will also hear from John Williams, who helped Georgetown divest, and Jillian, who goes to University of North Carolina, working on divestment and reinvestment. We want to give a shout out to Fossil Free California for their important work to encourage fossil fuel divestment from teacher retirement pensions and public employees. We are so grateful to Fossil Free California and others who are working hard to bring change. We are also working hard to let people know about Trump's 99 rollbacks. Leanna, could you please give everyone more information about the 99 rollbacks?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Judith. So if you're a returning viewer or a new viewer, you may have heard about the Trump administration's 99 environmental rollbacks, or their cutting of environmental protections. These harm our air, water, and public lands, and we stand in opposition of these 99 rollbacks that cut important protections for the air we breathe and the water we drink and so much more. For a link to the New York Times article that lays out everything perfectly, you can check out the front page of cleanforkids.org, our website. So the front page has the link also to the Harvard Deregulation Tracker and the Columbia University Tracker. Judith, speaking of those trackers and people that work on them, could you please show us the hand that you drew for Caitlin McCoy, who's the staff attorney at Harvard working on the Harvard Deregulation Tracker?
Yes, thank you. So last month, I drew a hand for Caitlin McCoy, a staff attorney at Harvard, because we use the Harvard Deregulation Tracker every week. This tracker keeps track of Trump's 99 harmful rollbacks or cuts to protection for our air, water, public lands, and endangered species. Luckily, we found out about the Harvard tracker from the New York Times. Thank you to the New York Times, Harvard, and Columbia University, who also has a tracker. We must protect our air and water because kids breathe here.
Yes, thank you, Judith. I'm also going to mention a little bit of bad news. As of yesterday, November 4th, the US officially became the only nation to leave the Paris Climate Agreement. So every country on the planet has signed it, and the Trump administration has currently pulled us out of it. The Paris Climate Agreement is a pact that has no penalties or enforcement to cut greenhouse gas emissions to save the planet from climate change. Currently, under the Trump administration, the US is walking away from that promise, while China, Japan, and the European Union have made long-term promises to have net zero emissions. So this is pretty unfortunate, but we hope that we can join once again soon, perhaps under a different administration in the future. And now I would like to introduce Jillian.
Hi again. It's me, Jillian, working with teams 3 and 5, and I just wanted to let you know that the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment has released a report that shows the risk of synthetic food dyes to children's nervous system. The summary states that scientific literature provides evidence that synthetic food dyes may cause or exacerbate neurobehavioral problems in some children. So this report is online, and I will put a link to the article in the chat, and they are taking comments on banning these dangerous chemicals. So there's also a link that'll be in the chat to send in these comments where you can tell them to protect children from toxic chemicals. These comments will be accepted until November 12th at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And before I ask everybody to introduce themselves, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm a sophomore this year at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm working very closely with Teams 3 and Teams 5, which are all about getting rid of toxic pesticides and clean air because kids breathe here. I'm also a part of a divestment group for the UNC system here in North Carolina called UNC Reinvest, and we hope to divest from fossil fuels soon. So now, Darren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello again. I'm Darren, and I work with Teams 3 and 5. So I'm interested in public health and climate change, and I am currently a third-year student at UCSD, majoring in molecular cellular biology. Currently, I am researching air pollution and the effects of pollution and wood smoke and the dangerous chemicals getting in our drinking water. I look forward to sharing research and information with you, and I'll share my information with Anna and others who work on graphics. So rollback 7 shows that earlier I shared information about rollback 7, once in, always in, which allows polluters to stop monitoring and reducing their toxic pollution after the one-time reduce the amounts. We are grateful for California Attorney General Becerra and so many others working to stop Trump's rollbacks. And now I would like to introduce Anna.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna, and I have a background in statistics. I work with all teams, including Team 4, to protect water. #water is life. I also work to help people understand the statistics and ignite a call to action. We must protect our water. Big polluters are allowed to dump toxic chemicals and pollution into our water. At cleanearthforkids.org, we are working hard for protections on a federal, state, and local level. Thank you, Jonah, Janice, Dr. Emily, Dr. Royer, and other orgs like Clean Water Action, Food and Water Watch, NRDC, the Sierra Club, and many more working together to protect water. One statistic I would like to share with everyone is that according to the Environmental Protection Agency, 44% of assessed stream miles, 64% of lakes, and 30% of bay and estuarine areas are not clean enough for fishing and swimming. The EPA also states that the United States' most common contaminants are bacteria, mercury, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Just going to show how important it is for us to work towards clean water. Next, I would like to introduce Jonah from Team 4.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonah, working with Team 4 to help protect safe drinking water in our lakes and streams, but also our pipes. And I want to talk to you tonight about rollback number 79 out of those 99 that were mentioned earlier that Trump has implemented. And this rollback proposed doubling the amount of time that was allowed to remove lead pipes from water systems with high levels of lead. So the reason that this is a big problem is that lead pipes are really dangerous because lead is a neurotoxin, and it's something that was used in plumbing decades ago, and we've phased it out because of how it's poisonous, essentially. And but that despite that, over 9.3 million homes in the United States are still connected to service lines that have lead in them. And service lines connect the plumbing in your home to the main water line. In the most famous example of this, it happens in a number of places across the United States, but the most famous example is Flint, Michigan. And this issue started in 2014, but still hasn't been fixed, where the water there is poisonous because of the levels of lead that are in it. Nearly 9,000 children drank lead-contaminated water from 18 months. And it's given that it's a neurotoxin, that's something that is extremely unsafe, and there's been significant health effects in kids because of this. So it's really unfortunate and disturbing that the Trump administration has proposed doubling the amount of time that you are allowed to remove these lead pipes. So what you can do about it is sign a petition to ask the Environmental Protection Agency to replace lead service lines and prevent what's happening in Flint and also in other towns and cities across the country. The EPA is preparing to update the lead and copper rule, but has rejected the advice of top medical and scientific experts, and it's now not requiring the replacement of lead service lines, despite the fact that we know there's no safe level of lead in our water. This week we sent out this petition and others, and if you'd like to get on our mailing list to get those petitions, please contact us at 4kids@cleanearthforkids.org. Another petition you can sign, if you haven't already, is a petition to tell the Bureau of Land Management to stop seismic testing in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Seismic testing uses sound waves to search for oil deposits on the ocean floor. And it's really harmful because it puts wildlife at risk and damages the landscape while threatening the indigenous people's way of life. We know that they use these machines that can kill wildlife, whether that's seals or dolphins or whales, and the indigenous people in these areas are dependent on those animals for their sustenance. the Bureau of Land Management has not done a proper environmental review or had discussions with these local communities. So please consider signing that petition to help protect this wildlife and the landscape of this area, as well as the rights of Indigenous people. So next, I'd like to introduce John Williams.
Hi, thanks, Jonah. So I'm John Williams. I'm go to Georgetown University, and recently I helped Georgetown divest from fossil fuels in our fund, and now we're working on reinvestment. So I'm going to talk a bit about divestment, why it matters, what you can do, and actually there's also a new metric that the Georgetown Student Investment Fund's using. It's pretty cool, so I'll get to that later. Basically, what divestment is where institutions take their funds out of companies like ExxonMobil, for example. So they're not, supporting these companies that are actively hurting our environment. Instead, they're taking them out, using them in other companies, and in some instances, there's actually a thing called reinvestment, where they put that money into more sustainable things like, solar panel companies, for example, or wind turbine companies. It's really important because it's really important that universities divest because the universities are often the crux of change in society, and so that's why I encourage everyone to see what institutions they have any influence in and really try and make them go for divestment. And the next slide, I can say how you can do that. So there are a lot of things you can do. You can write letters to institutions or universities that you're affiliated with, sign petitions. Actually, the way that Georgetown Student Investment Fund divested was because there is the Green Club at Georgetown, which is basically like an environmentally conscious club. And they had a lot of protests, movement stuff, and then eventually they, swayed the university to divest, which was really cool. You can also support us because we're working hard. We have a bunch of people on the divestment team working with their universities, and so yeah. So next slide, I'm going to talk about this really cool metric. So actually, just a few weeks ago, I learned about this metric, and now we're going to use it in the Georgetown Student Investment Fund. So basically, it's called ESG score. What this stands for is environmental, social, and governance. So a lot of the times when you're analyzing a company, you see, well, what are their profits, for example, stuff like that. But recently, there's been a large movement in the investment community to also measure ESG. So it focuses on things like resource use, emissions, and innovation. And then and there's also, social, so make sure they're not exploiting workers in other countries, make sure they have equal gender rights, stuff like that. And this is really cool because you can actually use this metric and then, for example, Georgetown Student Investment Fund, we're going to weight this. So if a company has a really bad ESG score, they're not environmentally conscious, then that's actually going to limit how much we can invest in that company. And I think that's really huge because it's another manifestation of divestment, or it's at least reduced investment, which I think is really great. So I'll just show a quick example of ESG analysis. So this is Goldman Sachs. I actually did this like a week ago. So you can see their green GHG to revenue, which is greenhouse gases to revenue. So how much they emit. And then you can also see like based on the timeline, whether it's improving or not, their energy intensity per sales, stuff like that. Environmental disclosure score. So like how much they say and how much, for example, if they don't give any, like if they don't say what their energy intensity per sales is, then that'll be low. So this is all, and the more institutions that use this, the more companies are going to be incentivized to, care about the environment, care about their social and governance. So yeah, and that's really cool. And I encourage you all to research more about divestment, continuing coming to these meetings where we talk about it. And yeah, so here's Jonah.
Thanks for that, John, and thanks to everyone presenting tonight or attending or now or watching online later. We need to work together for changes to environmental policy and what's socially acceptable for environmental goals. And we're grateful so much to the Attorney Generals, Earth Justice, and all the organizations and individuals out there who are working super hard for a better future for all of us and future generations. And it's really important to keep that in mind, that there's so many people out there who have the right goals in mind and believe that change is possible and are working towards it every day. We stand in opposition to the Trump administration's 99 rollbacks, because knowledge is power, and to make a difference, we need to be informed. So to get informed, you can check out the New York Times article on the homepage of our website to learn about those 99 rollbacks, or contact us for more information and ways to help and get involved here at cleanearthforkids.org. Tonight, we're going to hear again from our panelists, and each of them will share a reason that they're hopeful for the future of environmental change and advocacy. And you're also welcome to participate in that by sending us a message in the chat. But first, I'd like to introduce Hannah Reynolds from Princeton University. And thanks, Hannah, for coming.
Thank you, Jonah. I think I have a slide. I don't know. Okay, there. Yeah, so it's great to be here. Thank you guys so much for all the amazing work you're doing. One thing that I wanted to say real quick was that I'm also working with the divestment movement at Princeton, so I really admire what John is doing. That's really important work. I think that this grassroots student-led kind of initiative is really important. And with that said, I'm here to talk about my own research that has to do with the rollbacks, one of the rollbacks that Trump has done during his administration. So if you don't know, I guess you could go on to the next slide. Yeah, just so basically, the Tongass National Forest is the largest and the oldest national forest in our country. It's the largest single carbon sink in our country. It sequesters about 8% of all of the carbon that's in our nation's forests. And it's the only remaining temperate rainforest in the world. It's 16.7 million acres. And it's also the traditional homeland of the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian people. And so, yeah, just to kind of give a little bit of context, back in like about 9000 BC or even earlier, the Mount Edgecumbe eruption happened. And that's a story that's recorded in Tlingit history. And so that's 10,000 years ago, and only in 1741 did Europeans get to Alaska. So Tongass is in the southeastern panhandle of Alaska, and it's like really huge. It's massive, and they've lived there for so long. And I guess you could go to the next slide. But yeah, so basically, for the past 2 years, the Trump administration has worked really hard to open the Tongass. Recently, it was protected since 2000 by the Roadless Rule, which protects 58.5 million acres of land in 39 states across the country, and including 9 million acres of land in the Tongass. So this protects it from logging, clear cutting, road building, development, anything that would severely impact the well-being of the forest. And so it started in 2018, and now just last week they announced a full exemption of the Roadless Rule. Basically, the Roadless Rule, they had to like go through this whole process of like consulting the public and having, different consulting the public and having different drafts of the proposal. But it was only really recently that they finally finished this. And during the public comment periods, 96% of over 270,000 public commenters said that they opposed any exemption of the Roadless Rule. And 99% of those people said that they opposed a full exemption. So that means that literally against the will of almost all of the people who commented on this, the Trump administration continued with this exemption process. And so just last Wednesday, they announced that they were planning on repealing it fully. And so the Tongass is really important for a number of reasons. As I mentioned earlier, it's a really significant place with a lot of rich Indigenous culture and history. A lot of people who are Indigenous up in Southeast Alaska depend on the Tongass for food, and also a lot of rural people. So there's a lot of subsistence and cultural use of the Tongass, and it's also a really important place for building resiliency for these communities because, you know, at the start of the pandemic, the ferry system was slowed and there wasn't a lot of food coming in from the lower 48. But could you go back, sorry? Yeah, so 90 to 95% of the food is imported from the lower 48 in Alaska, in Southeast Alaska. So there's this huge reliance on the Tongass for food. It's really rich with biodiversity, whether it's salmon, if it's game, different roots and vegetables and things like that. So it's just really important. And it's also really important for helping support local businesses and local economies. A lot of different people who rely on the Tongass use it for their different businesses, and it does a lot. Okay, so for climate change, yeah, so climate change is something that's already really impacting the Tongass, and the fact that the roadless rule was just exempted is going to exacerbate these issues because it is such a significant carbon sink. And it is, so if you look at this picture in the upper right corner, it shows that the receding of the Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau, Alaska, which is in the Tongass, over the span of about 112 years. And you can see how much it receded. And that's just one example. There's also a lot of changes in the availability of food. There's changes in there's literally sinking villages in some places where the permafrost is melting. There's just ocean acidification and so many different things happening, drought. And as you can see in the figure in the bottom, there's a lot of concern about climate change. Almost all of the people who responded to a survey I did said that they were significantly concerned about climate change in Alaska. So it's something that's real, it's present, it's really happening. And then finally, something that I think is really important when we're talking about these rollbacks and talking about the things that Trump has done and the administration has done is thinking about the people who are being affected locally. It's easy to be like upset about these rules and things that are changed, but the people who are the most impacted often get left out of the conversation. So here are just a few different examples of things that people told me about their opinions on the roadless rule. I did research up there this summer and talked to a lot of folks. And, you know, most people said that they felt that the Tongass was being exploited and that it was really important to keep the roadless rule in place and to keep the land pristine. If you want to go on to the next slide, there's one quote that I really like that I think is really important. So this person said that, okay, so some logging can be conducted sustainably and provide industry to parts of rural Southeast Alaska, but a hard line for or against anything is problematic. I think we need to come together to agree what is realistic and helpful for rural Southeast, and that white conservationists and environmentalists located primarily in urban Southeast Alaska can appropriate Native voices when convenient to their cause. So I think that it's really important to understand this nuance, that it's not just like, you need to understand that there's local and Native and historically marginalized voices that need to be included in the conversation. But yeah, altogether, there's a lot of folks who've been affected by the Tongass, and and the roadless rule will affect so many people and their livelihoods and so many things. So it's really important that we take action and support when support is needed. So if you go on to the next slide, I could just talk a minute about what we can do about the Tongass. So there's a lot of ways to help. One thing is to write and call your representatives about the Roadless Area Conservation Act, which is an act that would keep the roadless rule there in place forever, and in all of our other national forests. So asking your representatives to support it would be really good. I'll send that in the chat. There's a link to a website that you can click, and it will walk you through and ask you questions about why you care about the Tongass and why it's important to protect it. Another thing is to really listen and seek out native and local voices when you're talking about these issues. And there are a lot of people who will be very willing to talk to you about it or to share their stories. And I think it's really important to include these voices, not speak just on behalf of them. Next, writing op-eds is really, really great. I do it a lot. I write for my school newspaper, and it's a really good way to communicate the urgency of action. I think that as young people, we have really important and worthwhile voices to have in the conversation, and people pay attention, and calling people out on these kind of issues is really important. Whether it's about the Tongass, which it's really important because a lot of people, it's been overshadowed by the election and COVID-19 and so many different things. It's really important to put this out there. And also just telling your friends, telling them about this, making it so it's not isolated in Alaska. So many people I talked to told me that they felt like no one was paying attention while their lives were crashing down around them, with this proposed exemption. So it's really important to really just help amplify messages like these.
Thank you, Hannah. That was really interesting. I hope that we can all work together to protect the Tongass. Orangutans are my favorite animal, and this upcoming week is Orangutan Awareness Week. That starts on the 8th. There are 3 different species of orangutans, and they are all labeled critically endangered by the Red List. The Sumatran orangutan is found in North Indonesia. The other species is the Borean orangutan. They are found also in Sumatra, which is in Southeast Asia, but there are only 7,500 left in their natural habitat, and they are labeled critically endangered as well. And the third species is the Tapanili. I might be pronouncing that wrong. They are the most endangered species of orangutans, as there's only 800 of them left. Orangutans live in tropical environments and live in lowland rainforest. They spend 90% of their lives in trees. Deforestation due to the palm oil industry is a huge factor in the death of orangutans, as the palm oil industry destroys and burns the rainforest to make way for palm oil plantations. Many orangutans are killed in the deforestation process, and the rest are left abandoned. Unfortunately, palm oil is found in a variety of products, ranging from candy bars to toothpaste to makeup, and rarely is it ever labeled. You can help protect orangutans from going extinct by not purchasing foods with palm oil and other products that have the word palm. Palm usually meaning derived from the oil palm fruit. To avoid using palm oil, find products such as 100% sunflower oil, corn oil, olive, coconut, or canola oil. Less than 7% of palm oil is sustainable, so it's better to just avoid it completely. And palm oil is even toxic to humans, so you wouldn't want to be ingesting it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone who shared tonight. Before we close, our youth board, everyone on right now are going, and not just our youth board, everyone, all of our panelists are going to share a reason we have to feel hopeful. And I'll ask Judith to go first. Thanks, Judith.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm hopeful about the future because of nonprofit organizations such as Earth Justice, NRDC, and Sierra Club, and also because of people like California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, who is working hard to protect us. I also think that youth around the world are more aware of climate change and are taking action more than ever. Thank you.
Hello, I am hopeful because researchers from Scripps and UCSD and also the next generation of youth believe in climate change and they are actively trying to protect our Earth. Also, I look forward to welcoming our future guest, Representative Al Muratsuchi. We are very grateful for your work.
Hi, I am hopeful because of the abundance of data and research we have to help us make better and more educated decisions for our future generations. I'm also hopeful because of our scientists and researchers and other people who are working to provide data for us and ignite a call to action.
I am hopeful because students like myself and everyone on this panel take time from their busy schedules to fight for the betterment of our nation and our world. I'm also hopeful because every day I attend school, I see people, researchers, scientists standing up for people's health.
Okay, I don't know who's going to speak next, but I will. I just wanted to say I'm so thankful for all of you guys. You're so amazing. And you know, all the things that you've said, and I'm sure all of the things that will be said, things that we're hopeful for. I do have a lot of hope. When I look out and I see your faces and know how hard you work, I just know that you'll be the change in the future. So at Clean Earth for Kids, we plan 7 generations ahead, right? Like our Native American brothers and sisters. We're thinking about how to take what we have and share it, obviously, with anyone, you know, nonprofits, all of that for free, and so that everything is repeatable for anyone to pick up and use. So that is so fabulous. And I look out at, you know, people in the audience today, you know, Nancy Kelly with 350, our board member, Jay Kloffenstein, new people that are getting to know us and hanging out, getting some credit for school. That's awesome. So how about I call on our guest, Hannah, tonight, who, you know, she led an incredible International Student Divestment Day with Princeton and Yale, and lots of great people on there. It was really awesome. Of course, we attended Clean Earth for Kids and excited to do something kind of similar on one of our action days coming up. So Hannah, if you could tell us what you're hopeful for and just what you'd like to say.
I'm hopeful because of all the young people, like the people on this call. And I'm really hopeful for a more sustainable future for our planet with our generation leading it. I think so many young people, like all of you, are leaders in the climate movement, and we couldn't do it without demands for change by our generation. And our generation has already done so much. Just wait till we are old enough to run for office.
I'm really hopeful for the people working for climate action and taking the steps we need to divest, invest, reinvest, and put people back to work. I'm also thankful for people like Marcy Jacobson working on renewable energy initiatives. That's really important as we need to get away from fossil fuels and all the climatic impacts it has, not only on our climate, but also on our people as well. And just thankful for all the people working for social, environmental, and climate injustices all around the world.
Yeah, I'm hopeful because there are scientists working hard to prove that climate change is real, which is being successful, and that we need to do something about it. I'm also hopeful because of all the electric cars I see on the street. Like, I feel like 5 years ago, it was really hard to find any electric cars. Now you see them whenever you go driving. So we're making technological progress, and that progress will only accelerate.
I am hopeful that we can build a sustainable future. And I also thank all the scientists, environmentalists, and families working together to build a good community, a better community. Thank you.
I'm really hopeful because of the examples of good policymakers that we have. We talked about California's Attorney General earlier on this panel discussion, but also because of Representative Mike Levin, who, good news, won his reelection. And he's fighting to stop offshore drilling here in California. And he's worked with us in the past and he's just an example of somebody who is in a position of power and is really using it for the good of the environment. And that's something that's really inspiring. And I know that there will only be more and more of people like that in the government in the future. So he's also looking forward to joining us as a featured guest on our panel.
Thank you guys for sharing. Did we hear from everybody? Judith, did you? Yes, you shared. Yes, you shared first. So we heard from all of you guys. Okay. So we're grateful for you so much, and we've got a lot of hope for the future. So we'll have a lot of our work. A lot of these rollbacks will be reversed. So we're working hard, and we're so grateful for you. On a personal note, having been poisoned by pesticides, knowing that Trump brought back chlorpyrifos, a neurotoxic pesticide that hurts the brains of children, and it's still being used in 47 states, is harm. It's really hurts. But I'll tell you what, people like Mike Levin, Senator Tom Udall, so many others are standing up against this ridiculousness, and more people are finding out. But we have to spread the word. So we definitely need you. Anna has great ideas. She had to hop off right now because she has another call she has to get on. But she has a great idea. Bring a friend, bring someone, let them know about these rollbacks. We have to, unite and work with others, share our stuff, and promote the voices of other youth. I look forward to talking to you when you're available. Just give me a text and we'll set something up.